being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today is an incredible episode with a guest, Cliff Nonnemacher. He's been involved in franchises for 20 plus years. And when I say franchises, I mean he helps people shop franchises to make sure that they're getting into a franchise that's right for them. He peels back some layers on the whole franchising game and certain industries that he's really hot on right now and the reasons why. I really think that you guys are going to get a lot out of today's episode. So without further ado, enjoy. So do you sell franchises? Do you help franchises? Do you help people that have a business that wants to franchise? Like, I know you're into franchises, but tell me more about kind of the meat and potatoes of what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our core competency is helping investors identify a franchise to acquire.
Okay.
Right. So they're out. Let's just say it's a unhappy, displaced executive, or it's an executive that just hates what they're doing.
They've made a few $100,000 a year for years. They've got some money in the bank and they're ready to do their own thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're like, you know what? I'm 40, 45, maybe 50. They see a runway. Right. They're not ready to retire. They're not able to retire. They're making money. Their whole career has been making money for other people.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? I'm going to go out on my own. I've been running a $200 million P&L for this company for 15 years.
Yeah.
I clearly can do it. I can manage the people. I have full P&L responsibility. We then meet those investors, understand their investment objectives, lifestyle, income needs, investment level, intestinal fortitude.
Yeah.
We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you have a desire to do something doesn't mean you're going to do it.
No.
So it's like, do you have what it takes to be that entrepreneur or to go out on your own? Do you have the ability to follow a system? Right? Can you follow a proven system? Most people do things on their own. They want to hang their own shingle. Like your business, you own it, you hang it, you control it. It's your culture. You create it. You can pivot on a dime. You buy in McDonald's, you're not adding hot dogs because you want to.
Yeah.
You have to follow the franchise system. So we're looking for the right investors. We're looking for their investment objectives. We're looking for their appetite for risk. We're looking, believe it or not, we're looking for spousal support. One of the biggest issues in business is an unsupportive spouse that's saying, no, you're not. You're not spending $300,000-400,000.
Yeah. I mean, business is hard enough as it is, let alone to have to overcome the hurdle of being successful in business with that level of difficulty and then doing it with somebody next to you that's unsupportive, going home to,
I told you.
It's like,
told you.
Fuck, dude.
You bet. I hear it all the time. They just come home. They've been kicked in the nuts, slugged in the gut, and they come home to, I told you not to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so demoralizing.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you got this.
Yeah.
You ran a $2 billion company.
Yeah. It's part of the process.
Exactly.
You know?
It's a growing pain. Fight through it.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of just being beat down, like they say, if behind every great man is a greater woman, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or a greater spouse.
There's no doubt.
Come home, be supportive. It's like, you know what? You're right. What am I worried about?
Yeah.
We got this.
Yeah.
We're managing risk. We're doing everything right.
A lot could be taken care of with a good night's rest.
That's right.
You know, there's been many days that I've came home and I was just like, fuck, I don't know if I could do this anymore. Like, should I have gone to college? Should I go back into sales? Like all of these things that really are there to try to simplify my life or reduce the stress, because entrepreneurship and business as a whole is just overwhelming in terms of the decisions that you have to make, the stress that you have to bear, the people that you have to manage. You know, that's probably one of the most difficult things in business is managing people. The great thing about a franchise is there should be easy systems and processes where it's like, hey, you know, like you said, you're not going to sell a hot dog at McDonald's, but this is how you season the fries. This is how you make the burger. This is how you kind of dumb it down to the point where anybody has the ability to do it. And if they can't get it done, then they're just being lazy. It's not that it's not possible, right? So the proper systems, really the best systems should be able to be operated, honored, and somebody should be able to see it through with a level of like a monkey. You know, it's like, it's dumb to say that, but That's just the reality of it. Is if it's a basic business model, it's different. If you own an accounting firm, you need a CPA or something like
an urgent care center.
Yeah, that there's certain ones that aren't going to be like that. I mean, obviously, we're talking about restaurants. Would you say restaurants are the highest in terms of people's interest in regards to franchising?
Interesting question. I think that if you looked up rankings,
Yeah.
if you asked anyone randomly right now in the street, if you said the word franchise, their knee-jerk reaction will be food.
Restaurants.
It's going to be some concept of
food.
And what's interesting is in our practice, we tend to not show food. What we tend to look at are asymmetrical investments.
Meaning?
Low investment, really fast break even, high margin, de-skilled labor that could be replaced by AI,
the monkey stuff, like I talked about.
Just
easy,
something
simple.
that you could easily execute.
Yeah.
Right. And something that has weathered multiple economic cycles like housing crisis, COVID, or recession. I don't like any shiny new pennies. I don't invest in anything new. I don't like to show clients new things, especially new things that have no history of weathering a cycle, right? Everything's a cycle. Right now we're in a cycle, right? We're always in something, right? So I want businesses that I know came out the other side clean of the 2008, 9, 10, 11 housing issue. Came out clean on the other side of COVID on a lockdown. Like if you made it through that, that's resilience of a brand. That was a tough time. And depending on what state you're in, it was either tougher, right, or it was just a little bit easier.
Right? Obviously.
Way it was
there's every state was different. I mean, you go to New York and there's these restaurants that have been around in the family for generations, 100-year-old businesses just literally shattered. They're out of business now because there was a 1 year period or 2 year period of, trying to pay rent, in New York while you have zero revenue isn't that sustainable.
That whole thing is just wrong.
It was wrong.
The concept of paying rent to a landlord when you're shuttered, but the landlord's like, I got to make a payment to the bank. We advise all clients. We have a 24-point mandate when it comes to brick and mortar lease negotiation, and one of them is force majeure. Right, I'm unable to fulfill my contractual obligation. Therefore, I'm doing a carve out. If I'm ever subject to a pandemic, epidemic, forced federal state shutdown, you're not getting paid. And I don't mean deferral. I'm talking about rent abatement. You're never getting that money. Because I'm never getting the customer's revenue for the last year. Right. So why do you get paid and I get screwed?
That's smart.
No one ever recovered from that. There are people right now. Think about this. There are tens of thousands of business owners right now that are still paying off rent deferral instead of being rent abated. Right. And it just breaks my heart because a lot of them are going to close.
I mean, it's just, the government tried to do the PPP and the ERT, all that stuff, but it's like, that only goes so far. PPP for payroll protection like if you're running a restaurant, it's not like you have a bunch of people getting paid a bunch of money. So it's not like your PPP is going to be millions of dollars enough to cover overhead for a year or two. You brought up something about, cycles in business, right? Economic cycles really is what it is. I've got a buddy, he talks about the majority of people out there operating businesses right now are what are called a half cycle business. Anybody that started their business within the last 15 years is considered a half cycle business, meaning they haven't seen the full economic cycle.
Right.
If you started in 2010 or 11, that's when things started doing the climb out. It's, 2025, halfway through, almost 2026, So, there's 15, 16 years there where you haven't even had to experience what a real recession looks like or an extreme economic downturn. And so these individuals that are out there 10 years in business that are pounding their chest, thinking they're, pretty bossed up, like that they've, have the Midas golden touch, have yet to, be a captain in really rough waters, right? And I would highly suggest every business, and I've talked about this before, is having a decent chunk of reserves in the bank.
That's right.
Whether it's 2 years, whether it's 3 years, whether it's 5 years, you will have to become a full cycle business. And that basically means you have to survive a recession and come out the other side still in business. And then you would be considered at that point a full cycle business.
Right.
You've dealt with the good.
You've dealt with the bad,
Yeah.
and that you came out the other side and you're still in business.
That's right.
And that's a real business right there. You know, a business that's taken out completely based upon recession usually is mismanagement of funds, not proper reserve account, living high on the lifestyle, versus, you know, putting their business first, all of those things. You know, we saw that in 2008, people foreclosing on their nice houses and selling their nice cars and their boats, and the liquidation sale happened, but didn't quite get people. A lot of people got hurt.
That's when I
obviously,
do my
over the-
most buying
is
is in the trough of the cycle.
Dude, I've
I'm
been
the contrarian.
saving so much money over the course of the last like 15 years.
Waiting. That's right.
It's like before I'm like, you know, man, like you get scared and you get nervous about the thought of a recession, until you're prepared.
That's right.
And then you get excited. Right. And so it's,
Everything's on sale.
yeah, everything's on sale. I mean, if your money's going to be sitting in a bank, it might as well be sitting somewhere on an asset that was underperforming based upon something it didn't have the ability to control, which is economics in a recession, which ultimately means, you know, you could probably pull back the books at a couple of years previous and see what it looked like. And that's really what it is that you're buying, as long as you survive the downturn. But everything's a flash sell.
That's right.
During recessions.
Real estate.
Yeah.
That's when I go in.
Yeah.
Just like Warren Buffett said, right?
Yeah.
Buy when there's blood in the streets. You
Yeah.
sell with the bugles.
When people are scared, running, fearful, get greedy. If people are being greedy,
He has the best
get,
quotes, doesn't he?
fearful.
That's right.
You know, something's not right.
One of my favorite them is if you're not going to kick a man when he's down, when do you kick him?
Yeah.
That was one of his quotes. I thought that was hilarious. He's got great quotes.
Yeah, he does.
Brilliant, obviously.
Yeah. So restaurants, you try to shy away
stay away
from
because they're
as much as possible, but
Well,
there's still got to be people that are like,
but-
no, dude, I want this smoothie shop or this, you know, whatever, and twist your arm a little bit and say, dude, I want this.
We have investments in food. So in addition to helping people buy businesses,
Okay.
obviously we take equity stakes in brands and we do things. So we're
Right.
involved in boba tea and coffee and pokey. And
Yeah.
so we're in that space. What we see within that space is that there's been a real hit to the margin and the bottom line of those businesses post-COVID.
With
COVID has
inflation
changed
stuff.
the game with cost of goods,
Yeah.
supply chain, the cost of labor, the cost of real estate, which means the cost of rent. Everything has gotten jacked up, but
Yeah.
the consumer has price increase fatigue. There are people posting on TikTok daily. Just got done driving through Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, fast food. They show the receipt. This is two people, $36. Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So the consumer has
So
price increase fatigue.
Yeah.
And because the old adage would have been, and you know this, everyone would say, you got to raise your prices. Well, the customer's just going to have to pay it. California wants $20 minimum wage for fast food employees. Customer's just going to have to pay for it. I'm telling you, the customer's not paying for it.
Yeah.
The customer's no longer showing up.
Yeah. It's going to get to the point where, you know, a $20 value meal doesn't feel like value. It feels like you're getting gypped,
Totally.
you know, for half-ass.
That's my problem with food. There's
Yeah.
a beautiful scene behind you, right? It's a bar, right?
Yeah.
That's obviously food and beverage. That's alcohol. But when you look at just the middle, like an Applebee's, look at Hooters. They just filed for bankruptcy.
Did that?
Look at the number of Del Tacos closing. Look at the number of brands that are closing on poor performing locations. Look at Burger King closing locations. I mean,
That's
a lot of brands are closing locations. They're just not performing. I don't like razor thin margins. So if you just said to me, you know, whether you like restaurants or like what sectors do you like? It's like I focus on 5 sectors. And it's like, well, why do you focus on those 5? I feel what's coming, people are not prepared for. And what's coming is an AI wave that is going to annihilate white collar jobs.
Oh, yeah.
The very people that created these technologies have just put themselves out of business. But the very people that have been protected for decades, if not a century,
Yeah.
right? I'm a white collar worker. I'm an accountant. I'm an attorney. Well, I'm a doctor. Guess what? I've had AI review labs, pathology reports, and do a better job.
Of assessing.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
a better job.
Yeah.
A granular detail. You know why? Because AI is not subject to time. They're not subject to reimbursement issues. They're not subject to all these things where it's like, where are you going? You just got here.
There's no bias.
It's unbelievable.
There's no bias. They don't need to sit here and say, hey, take this prescription, take that, you know, you could easily put in your diagnosis and say, hey, give me organic ways to treat this in more of a natural way to do it. Well, if you change this and you did like go back to the doctor in the 80s where it's like, how much sleep did you get? How much sunshine are you getting? How much body movement? How much hydration? You know, nobody asked that. Nobody, oh, you're
No,
tired.
because there's a drug for that. What do you have no vitamin D? Here's D.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need?
Oh, you're here's your ADD whatever Adderall. You know, if you're tired, here just take this, right? Like
Exactly right.
if you're getting incentivized to prescribe things through kickbacks, why would you tell somebody, hey, just get more sleep?
The patient cured is a customer lost, and we're all onto it.
Yeah.
We all get it now.
Yeah.
It's a business. We got it. Loud and clear.
You talked about something about razor thin margins, you know, and I've talked about restaurants before having, 5%, type margins because they're throwing out 10, 15% in food if their catalog,
Right.
in other words, their menu is just too great. That's way too much food to hold in back and expect it to stay good for an extended period of time. So just because you got the ribeye on the menu and you're holding it back in the back doesn't mean you're going to sell all of them. So how much ends up going to waste? So a restaurant that, you see like In-N-Out do well, but what do? It's burgers.
It's a lot.
So they're going to go through all the waste is going to be very minimal on single menu item type fast food or restaurant type things, right?
Plus the whole place is frozen.
Yeah.
There's nothing fresh.
Yeah.
The fresh is where you have spoilers.
Same thing with, Chick-fil-A or whatever. It's just chicken.
That's right.
If you need more chicken, order more chicken, but you're going to burn through it because it's a singular menu item.
Right on.
What's some of the best restaurant franchises that you have seen if somebody was like, nah, I want a restaurant? I mean, I don't know why they would, but...
Yeah, I'm not. So I really don't even get involved in the food space.
Not
I
at all.
spend more time.
Zero.
I spend more time talking people out of it, and I start educating people on businesses that are asymmetrical, where you have a way lower investment. Let's call it sub $300,000-400,000.
Okay.
Right? You have a margin of 15-20% to the bottom line, fully burdened with a manager. Businesses that could actually make money, go through the cycles, are AI resilient. Right? Maybe
what are some of those industries? What are some of the industries? Like, give me an example.
One of my, and I think you'll appreciate this, being you, and I've listened to some of your episodes.
Yeah.
So I say this, and people think it's controversial. We've titled them. The number one is the feminization of men in America. Because we feminize men in America, men can't use tools. Right? So they can't think about the unintended consequence of a society of men that can't use tools. Right? What do? You have to call another person to do literally everything in your number one investment, which is your home.
Yeah.
So since most people can't use tools, anything home services, to me, I'm long, right? I'm long anything home services. So if it requires a tool, and I'm referring to even a squeegee, a pressure washing wand, a hammer, right? Whether it's roofing, siding, flooring, painting, if it's a handyman service, if we're installing ramps for the elderly, I don't care. If it requires the use of a tool, I have AI resilience. You're going to see the emphasis on why does he like tools so much? Or why is he into
something hands-on?
We're not there yet. Exactly. It's going to take Optimus Prime a good time before they're walking into the studio and you're like, oh, Cliff, hold on a minute. He's here to fix the HVAC system.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Is that a Tesla humanoid?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you didn't know? They're all over my area now. We're not there yet. So we still need feet on the street.
Yeah.
We need a human being to do this work, right? We're just not there yet.
It's true.
So I love anything. And when I refer to feminization men, please understand, I don't just mean tools. Under that category, I'm talking about ED. I'm talking about low T. There's a lot of issues what we've done to men. There's a war on men.
Yeah.
You can look this up yourself.
Yeah.
Just a male's sperm count in the last decade in America has declined 50%.
Yeah.
We have declining testosterone levels in this country. Like, this is all by design.
Yeah.
And we need to push that back. So you shed light on this stuff.
If somebody is having their testosterone drop that dramatically and they're not doing anything, changing their lifestyle, then that means they're just a byproduct of something external that's affecting something internal. Then they have to go on the attack, right? And say, okay, well, I have to actually fight back if I want to keep, my energy levels or my testosterone levels or be able to build muscle or whatever. What's like one of the more expensive franchises that you've
like a brand like, let's call it Pause, or a brand like Forever Young.
Okay.
Right? These are brands that have a multitude of services, including IV infusion therapy, right? Vitamin infused IV bags. They're doing Botox injections. They're doing a lot of different, modalities of health and wellness. Yeah, beauty, exactly. It's like, what are you in for? I'm going skiing. I want to get jacked up on my bees, or you going hiking and you want to get rehydrated, or whatever, or you got a hangover. Like, whatever you're in there for is your personal issue.
I mean,
You've done it.
Yeah, but I've done IVs and stuff like that. Not necessarily for a hangover. I have friends that have done it for hangovers, and they say it's a miracle. But for me, it's just like, man, my body's toast. I just really need to, give it a little bump.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
live below sea level.
Yeah.
So when I come out here, I think we're hanging out at 3,000 feet.
32, something like that. 32.
Where I live in Heber, I could be at 6,000.
Yeah.
That affects me.
Yeah.
So I need that little help before I come out to this type of altitude, and then want to go hiking or biking or skiing aggressively. The mountains around here, as you know, they're intense. So you got to be ready for that. You can't mess around.
So have you seen, like, for instance, like, with the higher price point franchises that are, let's say, $500,000 or $1 million to get into, like, as you go up in price, does the success rate also increase?
See, that's my issue right there. I love this question.
Yeah.
People look, it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
We've all heard this.
Yeah.
So if I put in $1 million, I'm probably going to, no, there is no real direct correlation there. And you just said it best. So if you think about it, just a steakhouse, right? A steakhouse that you and I have gone to.
Yeah.
Wood paneling, rich, masculine, dim light.
Expensive as shit.
Awesome vibe, lighting, onyx countertops, right? You're talking about $1 million build out.
Yeah.
Just the build out. What's this guy making with a white tablecloth restaurant? 5%? 8%? He's doing a couple of million. You're making 5%, 8% to the bottom line. I have literally zero interest in businesses like that. Zero. I would rather buy a business sub 200,000, 20% net to the bottom line, do $1 million, $2 million. I'm the smartest guy in the room with a business model like that.
Yeah.
I have a third or a fifth of the employees. I don't have perpetual job hoppers. I'm never throwing out product that never sold.
Or you're a third or a fifth less in terms of outlay.
Totally.
As well.
My risk is declined. My personal guarantee exposure is minimal, because with that fancy restaurant comes a PG.
Oh, yeah.
Signed leases.
Oh, yeah.
We're all no stranger to this.
And
we know how it plays out.
15-year leases, long haul.
The broker wanted to do a straight 10 with a PG and expose your personal assets, my personal assets.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah.
So we flip the script on that nonsense. We get into feminization of men, anti-aging biohacking, the humanization of pets and animals. We're not repopulating.
No.
Right? So we're not. We're just not. I'm sorry.
The animal market, dude, people will spend
billion.
Whatever on their little pal, their furry pal.
That's right. Again, AI resilient.
Yeah.
I need a brick and mortar brand, call it a warehouse, not that expensive space. I do my build out. I start bringing in either grooming them, which could be mobile.
Yeah.
Training them, which is mobile. Dog boarding, dog daycare, obviously, is brick and mortar. So we're balancing brick and mortar with non-brick and mortar with our clients, and they quickly start to see that asymmetrical investment where it's like, man, non-brick and mortar seems consistently sub 200 grand. Brick and mortar seems to start at 350.
Yeah.
And they start to get it. Margins 10, 15%. Margins can exceed that number. I have way fewer employees over here, way less risk, no PG risk.
What about gyms?
I do
fitness stuff.
Great question. And I know you're a fitness enthusiast, and you're talking to a guy that owns multiple gyms.
Well, I have a close buddy that has a fitness franchise.
I watched the episode, actually. He was on your show. Yeah, you brought him in. Yeah. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
I had multiple gyms up in New York. That's how I actually met my business partner, Justin. He was a fitness enthusiast, right? Went to college for it. And we bought gyms. At my strategy with gyms was always this, and it shocked my business partner when I met him. I want to buy failure. This was my strategy. I want to buy all the dead gyms.
All the underproduced.
And I want to pay them maybe 2 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar. So I'm handing you nothing. I'll take the gym, and then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to sell it. That was our playbook. That's actually
you're basically buying them out of the loss that they're about to experience, right? You come in as the saving grace saying, hey, just hand it over to me. Here's a couple bucks. for some of the assets, equipment, or whatever.
The landlord has turned a gun turret on you and your family.
Yeah.
And dangling that PG and reminding you they're going to come after your house.
What do you think caused them to experience the, decline or the not results that got them to the point, you know what I mean? Because you said it's underperforming. So how do you go in and make it perform?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So when you think about business is all about flawless execution.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
This country is idea rich and execution poor. Everyone's got ideas coming out of there. Ideas, all that you could do a think tank in here tomorrow.
Yeah.
You'd be like on a whiteboard, you'd run out of space.
Yeah.
No one's executing any of them.
Yeah.
So idea rich, execution poor, and that mentality that you deal with at the dinner table anywhere in America, that ends up finding its way into business. And people want to do busy work. They like to do cute stuff and busy work and do things that they think they're productive instead of obsessing over new client acquisition, retention, frequency of purchase. If you just simplified a conversation and said, there's only 3 ways to build a business. That's it. There's 3. You got to acquire new customers. You have to increase their frequency of purchase, and you have to increase the average ticket. They've come in, spend 5. They have to come in, spend 7. Then ultimately 10, maybe 15. They come in once a week.
Yeah.
They come in once a month. They got to come in once a week. How do you increase that frequency? That's the 3 ways you build a business. So what do people do? They obsess over the marketing in the window. They don't like the girl holding the dumbbells. That's what you're going to obsess over.
So they start moving stuff, shifting. Hey, let's do let's put the bench press over there and do that. Let's stay busy doing nothing that moves the needle, but at least I feel good because I could step back and see that there were changes. This is the question you have to ask yourself. Is there somebody in this industry doing it at a high level and making good money doing it? And if the answer is yes, then it's your responsibility to figure out how to do that for yourself. Now, is the mountain maybe a little higher than what it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago? Sure.
Yeah.
But there's still a mountain that could be climbed, and you could still get to the peak of that mountain. You just might have to fight just a little bit harder.
Look at Orange Theory.
Yeah.
Orange Theory did a remarkable job in a boutique space.
Fuck, dude.
Right?
They crushed it.
Exactly. Now they're struggling.
Yeah.
The largest Orange
blew
Theory
up out of nowhere.
Man, right there in my backyard, Boca Raton, Florida.
Yeah. I mean, their pricing and their penalties if you book like a workout and don't show up, a $20 fine or whatever because you took a spot from somebody else. And I mean, it was... On the outside, it appeared to be, a great business model with good margins with a $200 price point or $250 price point, small location.
So I do like that.
Simplified, workouts, things like
boutique.
That. Yeah.
I don't want to just shit and cast a blanket statement on fitness that it's no good. I am very concerned about the semaglutides. I made that pretty clear.
Yeah.
But I do like different modalities of fitness. If you look at stickiness with a customer, look at yoga, for example. We laughed at it for decades.
Oh, yeah.
Now everyone's doing it at every level.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
It's like your mind just expanded. It'll never go back.
Part of that is for community, though, because people just need community. And so it's like there's the yogis, they go out for fucking coffee after and, go on hikes together on the weekends. And so it's like
that's a sticky relationship, though. That's what you want with your customers, right?
That's exactly it.
Yep. Pilates is the same way.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reason why I asked is because, one, I know Devin. He's a good friend and has Strive 11 Fitness. And, the margins in it are excellent because he's like, dude, the idea is how can we get a small space, maximize it as much as we possibly can. Limited labor. Already preset workouts. They can come in for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, whatever they want to do. There were so many, benefits to it, but the main benefit was, you're not having to have a massive, huge building as like a big, like a Lifetime.
LA.
Where you're probably paying 50 to 100 grand a month in lease payments. That's just that, but outside of staffing it and the equipment and all that.
My neighbor owns 3 Planet Fitnesses, pays $150,000 a month in rent, and COVID nearly killed him.
Wow.
I mean, so you look at these types of business. Is it a great business model? Yeah. I mean, Planet Fitness's entire business model is hoping you don't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Let's
just
charge
flies in my face.
Let's charge a cheap enough rate that people just won't cancel at 10 or 15 bucks or whatever it is per month. It's so low that even if they don't come, it's like, that's not really doing. Maybe I'll go later. It's just
That's right.
it's not the $150 or $200 price point that if you don't go for 3 or 4 months, you're like, shit.
It gets canceled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Everyone asks, can you pause, right? Can we pause? I don't want to cancel.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back because everyone has great intentions of getting into that size 2 dress.
Sure. Yeah. We'll see you next February or March. Try and, spend 2 months to get in shape for summer again and then have you fall off, over and over. No, that's interesting, man. I figured when you came in here, it was going to be like, oh man, this restaurant or this one or, this one's decent. I had no idea that it was like, which is super smart. Did you initially go into restaurants and get information that said, dude, this is a no-go? Like, was there that trial period where you're just like kind of, you get better at business over time utilizing data to your advantage, right?
That's it. So you just nailed it. It's no different from anything else that you've done in your life.
Yeah.
Where you've come up with a discipline. I'm a former investment banker, and there was a statement that really resonated with me. The gentleman's name was Sandy Weil. He's probably not around. So when Solomon Smith Barney merged with Citibank, they created Citigroup. I was with them during that time.
During the merger.
So I was an investment banker, and Sandy made a comment, and it's like, why are you getting rid of the home care business? If I can't make 25%, I'm out. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of small business owners be like, I got this little business that makes me 10% net. I got this other one that's 15. The discipline of what he said really struck a chord. I was in my mid-20s at the time. And I'm like, just like you start to admire certain things about people.
Yeah.
You're like, I admire that discipline.
Yeah.
I'm going to adopt that. Now, 25% is rich.
Yeah.
That's a big bottom line number. Come on. There's not a lot of businesses that are netting 25 points consistently to the bottom line.
That's what I tell people, man. I'm like, if you're at 20-25%, you have a good business.
You do.
That's a good business.
You do.
And I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, well, I'm at 25 or 30. And I'm like, dude, I don't think that you understand
what you have.
like what you have. Like most businesses, 10 or 15%. Obviously, restaurants are closer to 5 to 7%. Every industry kind of has an industry standard. Like, for instance, I used to do business loan stuff way back in the day. And like I would be talking to people and they own a gas station. I'm like, what's your revenue? And they're like, 3 million. And I'm like, oh, what's your profit? And it was such a small number. And I'm like, how? And he's like, well, the majority of our sales are gas.
No money.
And there's really just no money in gas. Like people think that people who own gas stations are raking it in off of the gas prices, when in reality, that's just a feature to get your ass to park so that you can come in and spend 8, 10, 20 bucks or whatever it is where I make my margins, which is on, the snacks and the goodies or whatever it is. And so there was just certain things in the business loan industry that I was like, I started seeing stuff and it was like, $3 million is not $3 million in revenue across every business. Yes, it looks like the same top line number, but it's not the same by the time you, play Planko and it drops down to the bottom. Exactly. Because a business that's doing 30% margins, with something like that, you got 900 grand in profit, and then you have a gas station over here that the guy's making, 150 grand off of 3 million in revenue.
It is exactly my issue with this space.
Yeah.
I don't like that math at all.
Yeah.
I'd rather own a little swim school. We have a swim school, for example. It's 200 grand. System averages $500,000 a year, 20% net.
So what do you mean swim school?
Just a swim school.
Like for
simple,
kids?
Yeah. Or anyone that needs to learn how to swim.
Okay.
It's just a swim school. They have no pool. They're using LA Fitness's pool. They're using a big box gym's pool. So they're leasing that space.
Hey, for an hour.
That's right. I only need it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm here on Saturday, Sunday. I'm here on Monday, Wednesday, whatever their cycle is.
Yeah.
They pay rent. They have the pool. They teach people how to swim. Average revenue system-wide $500,000, right, with a 20% net. What's wrong with that? No brick and mortar, easy life, giving back to people.
Fuck, man. I wish more people understood, like, what it is that they really want to get out of their business. And so when you said like, hey, I sit down with them and be like, hey, what are you really trying to accomplish so that we can find the right franchise for you?
Exactly.
Like that's a big fucking deal, dude. Because most business owners, there's zero end game. There's zero thought about it. It was like, man, I want financial freedom. That's why I'm getting into business. And then they get into business and realize, okay, you might get to the point, it's not guaranteed. I mean, whatever, 80-something% of businesses are out of business in 5 years. So,
Right.
Let the numbers, tell the story. Cause I'm a big believer in letting numbers and data tell the story, not, throwing my bias at it. Yeah. I love,
Right.
I love the big gym that I go to that has the pool. I would love to own that gym because I'm into fitness. But at the end of the day, they're like, dude, one day we come in, $30,000 AC units out. Yeah. The next one, there's something wrong with the pool. We've got to spend $20,000 to have the pool guy come over. He's like, if it's not one thing, it's another. It's just
that's why 1,000.
And it's like their payroll's $500,000 every single month between these three and so it's like everybody thinks that it's just they're counting the members, 20,000 members times that, but they really just don't understand the overhead of the business. But back to the point I was making where you said $500,000, $100,000, right. That's a good business. One, I would guess that there's a lot of time freedom in that business.
Totally. And you
right?
can scale it.
And
so open up a second, third, fourth, fifth. Keep scaling it.
If you're at the pool 2 or 3 days a week, outside of that, handling calls, making sales or whatever it is, it's probably, I'm maybe oversimplifying it, but that's stuff that you really have to look into. What's the quality of life I want? Like how much do I value time versus valuing money? Yeah. Because you could find things, if you overvalue money and you don't value your time, go start a business and go work in it 80 to 100 hours a week. And then at that point, the value of money starts going down and you start valuing your time more. Right. And so like when I'm working with business owners and the masterminds, it's like the biggest issue is clarity. They don't really have a direction. They don't really understand what they're trying to get from their business. And some of them get to the point where they end up growing and expanding into a massive problem, right? So I've hired the executives. I've done this. I've done payrolls inflate. They're so far removed from their business that they don't understand why their business isn't making money. I was making more money, half the size, right. And business was good. So I just figured bigger is better, but bigger jobs, for instance, in construction, that's 60 to 90 day window. That's bigger money that you now have to float. Right. And so I've watched business owners take on bigger and bigger jobs, hire more people, yep. And not necessarily have the liquidity that they need to float 60 days or right. 90 days. And now they're cash strapped, but they're doing more business than what they did previous. And I spoke to one guy, one of my friends. I'm like, bro, he's like, dude, I want to coach my daughter's softball. Like, I want to take my kids to school. I'm like, okay, now we're starting to get somewhere.
That's right.
Because you're starting to identify the things that are important to you. Now that you know some of those things, now it's up to you to be able to build a business that has the ability to do those things. The second question is what type of money would you need to make to live where you live, to be able to do those things, and have, a lifestyle that you might not make $2 million a year, but right. It doesn't sound like that you value that.
Right.
Would you be okay making $300,000 to $400,000 a year in coaching softball and taking your kids to school, but being able to buy back your time? And so like having an actual ideal situation of what type of money do I want to make? What type of freedom do I want to have? What are the things that I value, and building a business around that? Because if you don't actually have those things, then the business takes full control.
Yep.
It'll own you. It'll own you, right. Dude. It'll own you. It'll always request something from you. It has needs like a fucking right. nagging woman, and I no disrespect to a nagging man or however you want to put it. But yeah. At the end of the day, if somebody that's nagging, you give them an ear, they'll fucking keep going. Right. You give a business your time and attention, and you don't have like boundaries. Yeah. It'll fucking take it all from you.
It will.
It'll take your mental health. It'll take your physical health. It'll take your relationships. with your spouse or your children.
Totally.
It'll take the color out of life itself.
Yep.
Things will get pretty dull. Depression is a big thing in business. And so that's why I really, love how you opened up. Like, hey man, like we start with an assessment.
That's right.
So that we understand exactly like, what are your priorities? What are you looking to get out of it so that we can find something that matches your ideal, situation.
And it never leads to a restaurant, quite frankly. Even forget my bias. The answer will never lead to a restaurant. I want to coach my kid's soccer game. I want to go to the dance recital. I want to be present.
Yeah.
I was on an airplane. I travel for work. I'm out of the house 160 days a year.
Yeah.
I want my life back. I want my time back. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good spouse. I want to be a good brother, whatever.
Well, you talked about executives at 40, 50, or whatever. And I'm like, that really matches up to what we talked about prior to getting on in terms of like the things that you value change with age.
Totally.
You fucking 25-year-old me, give me the Aston Martin.
Yep.
Give me the Bentley. I want the big house on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
I want it all. Money, fast cars, diamond rings. I want every damn thing.
Right.
Like the rap song. But now that I'm older, and I think that this happens with most people, similar to my buddy. Like, hey man, I just want to coach softball. I want to take my kids to school. It's like, with age, you start appreciating different things outside of just more.
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of the times more is a distraction from the hate that they have for themselves or the misery that they're living, but at least it gives them something to chase. So it's more of a distraction. Once you get good with you, you're just like, more would be nice, but what's the exchange? When somebody brings me an opportunity to look at, and I always say, what do you need from me? Do you need my time? Do you need my money? Is it my experience, like more consulting? Like what is it that you need from me?
Right.
It's like, I'm good, like hopping on calls and guiding somebody for that opportunity here and there. I'm good with investing some money, but if you're going to come knock on my door and say, hey, this is going to take a ton of your time, we're in build phase.
Right.
It's like, fuck, dude, I've been through build phase after build phase after build phase.
Right.
It's like, dude, usually don't go back into it. You then find other things that you could hitch your wagon to that already has maybe some legs that you're like, okay, this thing can do something,
right?
But somebody else is going to get their hands dirty on the front, maybe younger, they're ready for the build phase.
Yep.
And your expertise or your network or your money has the ability to ignite it. But fucking 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I'd say yes to
anything.
I'm
all in.
Bro, opportunity, say less. It's a yes from me. And I think that early on, you kind of have to be like that. And
I totally agree.
You really don't have the data to really determine, the value of each opportunity. So it's just like, fuck, let's play the numbers.
That's right.
If I say yes, it's like the first 10 or 15 years in business, you have to be a yes person, yes man, yes woman. Say yes to as many things as you possibly can, get data, and then,
now where to put your nose.
Yeah.
Be unreasonably selective.
Then it has to flip.
Exactly.
It has to flip, because when you start appreciating time a little bit more than money, then it starts going like, okay, is this going to be a distraction? Is this going to take too much of my time? Then you start pulling out the far more no's in the back half of life, because you're valuing things a little bit differently. So
totally agree.
So like franchise wise, have you seen people come into a franchise and be pretty much hands off and have a business operate without their presence pretty quickly?
So, so I don't subscribe to, let's say, passive, investing. I think passive is really S&P 500, crypto, maybe art.
Yeah.
I don't even think real estate's passive.
Put your money in there and turn your head for 10 years and see what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would never position it where it's like, look, buy the franchise, put your staff in place, and take off.
Yeah.
But I do believe in semi-absentee, because you would need to be semi-absentee if you're going to become a multi-unit owner.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do love about franchising and how it changed my life as a business person is building a business that doesn't rely on your day-to-day involvement. And that really resonated with me, right? It's like John Paul Getty said, I would rather have 1% of 100 men than 100% of myself.
Yeah.
There are certain things that just open up some gateway in your brain where it literally rewires your entire thinking, and you pivot and you execute very differently. Like you said, he built a brand, and then he built the second and third location. Why is it not profitable? Why am I bleeding and hemorrhaging cash? And why did this not get easier?
Yeah.
You replicated a bad model.
Yeah.
You replicated more dependency on you.
Yeah.
You didn't replicate a business that becomes more dependent on your managers, assistant managers, and staff.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't build a plan with the end in mind, which is you stepping away from the business and overseeing your managers.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want 100 direct reports. I want 5. Let those 5 deal with all those people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So franchising really ingrains in people building a business that doesn't require your day-to-day involvement so that you can scale into multiple locations. And that's all done through systems and processes, right?
So would you say that, because I've heard this too before, I mean, I'm going back to restaurants though, but back in the day when I was trying to lose weight, I did I hate to give him credit, and it's not really him credit, the Jared Subway.
Oh, yeah.
Or child raper in prison or some shit. But,
You brought him out.
It is what it is.
Yep.
But they had the big, hey, lose weight campaign or whatever, and I was up a couple 100 pounds, and I was like, man, I need to just do better. Instead of the burger and fries, maybe I'll just get a 6-inch sandwich at lunch. Like my transition to better health went from, greasy, heavy fast food to still fast food. But, I got to know a guy that was at the store or whatever. And I'm like, does the franchise do pretty well? And he goes, I would never recommend owning one. It's live or die if you only have one.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. The group that I'm involved in, we own 10. And some months, these 5 make money. The next month, those 5 don't, and these 5 do.
That's right.
So it's the law of averages. In this industry, you have to be a multi-franchise owner on the food stuff, having 5 to 10 locations. So if you've got 2 bad ones and three good ones, the 2 remove and that's how that's how you're making money.
You know that the average person can't do that.
No.
Agreed?
But that's why he said the group that
That's
I'm
right.
with, right?
And he's 100% right. If he's netting 35 per location, he's lucky.
Yeah.
35.
Yeah.
Like, you and I wouldn't get out of bed for that.
No.
Honestly, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You're going to deal with all those headaches, food prep, inspectors, employees, rent, all this stuff.
Well,
We just
not just employees,
for 35 grand.
low
a year.
wage employees.
Right. Yeah.
People
Perpetual job hopping employees.
People act their wage.
That,
You know what I mean?
Right on.
So,
that's right.
and that means they act their wage
Rob.
and you pay low, then, that's just more headaches and
exactly
stress for you. When you're hiring people, it should be to remove headaches and stress, not to add to. Everybody, when they're hiring, should ask themselves, is this an individual that I'll have to manage, that will create problems for me, but I don't have to be on the front line? Or is this an individual that can be on the front line and reduce my stress, reduce my problems, right?
Subway closed 800 locations a year for like the last decade. Like they're in literally a death spiral as a brand. So think about what happened.
They
to
seem
the
to
food
come
space.
back for a minute
Well,
with
we
the little
bought it-
$5 foot long, and then next thing you know, because I was going in during that time, and then it's
So
$5.99.
You bring this up.
And then
it
it's
flies.
$7.99. And then what they're doing is they're creeping the price point back right to where it was, and now they're back to where they were.
Right. Those things, when you have the campaign saved them, you said it.
It did.
The $5 footlong saved the brand. It was already spiraling. People weren't eating there. There were a lot of better alternatives. I mean, Jersey Mike's, Firehouse Subs.
Yeah.
There's at the time, Quiznos had 5,000 locations.
I fucking loved Quiznos.
So did I.
And then we had one here and it went away.
So did I. I thought the brand was superior
Me too.
to a
Me
Subway. The cold cuts, everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands that were way better. I mean, you could build this argument because you're a marketing guy. You build this argument with Pepsi, right? Pepsi proved that they have a better marketing department, Coca-Cola, but we're a better product. They had a blind Pepsi challenge back in the 80s.
I
and
love
boom.
Pepsi over Coke. I'll take a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi, but
A lot of people say that.
if it was straight can to can, I'm taking a Pepsi all day.
But the sales don't reflect
They don't.
the reality. See,
Yeah.
perception becomes reality, right?
Yeah.
And the brand is just better because it does better at advertising and marketing. It's just Coca-Cola. It's just a better brand. Subway was a machine.
Yeah.
Jared helped them. This guy was fitting in a size 90 pair of pants. I mean, and all of a sudden he's wearing a size 42, right? And everyone's like, wow, if I eat that every day, I could be Jared. They found something relatable to society and all of a sudden they're doing it. But yeah, that brand, like a lot of brands, just doesn't make any money and therefore I'm out. And that's all about that. That's what we try and instill in our clients. Be a disciplined investor.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love. Do you know how many people call me up every day? I want a Papa Murphy's. Why? I love it. So you want to buy the business because you love it. Tell me something. Do you love working 7 days a week? Do you love operating 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.? Do you love throwing, I don't know, $15,000 worth of food out? No. So you still want to talk about it? I'm good. Right. People fall in love with a product. They don't fall in love with what it takes to build that brand. We talked about this with the gyms.
Yeah.
It's the same analogy.
It is.
Man, I love gym. That guy's Jack. Yeah, he owns a gym. You know, he's a fitness enthusiast. He loves gym. Do you love what it takes to build a gym? Constantly acquiring new customers, constantly dealing with liability. No, I don't love operating a gym. I love the gym. So that's the disconnect we find. IT professionals that are displaced because of AI. You're an IT guy, super smart, MBAs, all this stuff, right? Doctorates in coding. But you have low energy. You can't energize or lead a team, right? You're really quiet. You live in a cubicle. You're afraid of people. No, I'm being serious, right? This is kind of their profession. It's what they do. So when you think about it, it's like, how do I take that?
They would prefer a basement with the lights off by themselves. Yeah.
So we have a lot of displaced people. We have to make sure that we take that guy and put him in a business that he is not just going to survive, but he's going to thrive and he's going to be fulfilled. And he's going to call me in 6 months saying, I'm so glad I met you. I've been doing this 25 years. So working with all these different personality traits and groups of professions and knowing where they belong.
Do you ever do like a personality assessment on people outside of maybe just the questions?
So let me tell you my history with these things. It's a great question.
Yeah.
And on its face, the answer should be yes.
Yeah.
They're so important.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I've learned about those personality traits. What you don't know is that guy right there, his wife left him for a wealthy entrepreneur. Okay. His father also told him he's a loser. This guy right there that wants to buy your brand. He doesn't look good on this assessment. You're ready to turn him away. This guy has something to prove.
Got some motivation.
Don't get in the way of that guy.
Yeah.
Do not get in the way of a man that has nothing to lose and just be her upside. He'll fucking destroy everybody, right? Don't get in that guy's way.
Yeah, you know what's
seen that.
Been through. Yeah.
Trevor, I've seen it for 25 years. I've seen these guys lose spouses to these wealthier men. I've seen people tell me their journey as children. Their grandfather told them they're losers. They'll amount to nothing. This guy finally is now at 45, 50, realizing I haven't hit my home run yet. This is my moment. Yeah, I don't look good on that assessment. Yes, I don't look like your top 10% performers, but don't get in my way because I got to prove something. And I have seen such inconsistencies with these personality traits. Unless you take a deeper dive into that guy's life and journey, the beatdown that he's taken, you really just can't use that piece of paper. Look at freaking Tom Brady.
Yeah.
If you just said, look at the combine, look at the data,
assessment. Yeah.
no one would have chose that guy.
Yeah.
He's slow. He was not even muscular. He was everything you're not supposed to be.
Nobody almost did choose that guy.
Thank you. That's my issue with these types of data points. I do love P&Ls, and I love all the data points that you love making business decisions.
Yeah.
But the brain,
there's the heart, the individual.
Yeah, man.
The fire or the motivation. Like a low place does wonders for the right people.
So true.
You know, some people say, "Oh, I'm low. I'm a screw up on that." You know, and they kind of own it. But like, there's people that they find their fire. They find, their purpose or passion after everything in their life has been burned down and they've been told that
that's right.
They can't do shit, that they're a nobody. And it's kind of like that light switch moment where they're like, fuck this. I have to show people that they are wrong. And sometimes that's where your motivation starts is fuck them.
That's right.
And I'm going to prove them wrong. Yeah. Eventually, you get smart enough and mature where you
care
like,
about
fuck
that anymore.
them. That's right. I got mines, whatever. Hope they're doing well, but I really don't give a shit. They could still fuck off, but I'm going to send good vibes their way. You know what I mean? So, what's the biggest mistake that people make going into franchising?
Biggest mistake.
Like if they're not using you,
Yeah.
if they're not using you, like if you're taking you out of the equation and they're just like fucking trying to figure it out themselves, they go onto the sites, and they get 100 inquiries, shit like that.
So just to level set, you have 4,000 brands in this country, 4,000.
Okay.
You couldn't possibly do due diligence on 4,000.
There's no way.
So then you have to take that superset and break it down to a manageable subset of brands, right?
Motherfucker ate a sandwich and said, "This is good. I want this place." This would do good in
I answer problem one.
Yeah.
I love the product, but I don't love what it takes to build a brand. So there's one problem: falling in love with the product.
Yeah.
but not. It's like Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Do you love her or the family? Love the family. Wrong move.
Yeah.
Right. That whole thing where you're falling in love with the wrong
Side of
the
the
process.
equation.
Right.
Yeah.
So the sandwich you ate it, great. You could eat it as a customer in perpetuity. You don't have to buy the brand.
Yeah.
Now you want to buy the brand, you're buying all the problems that come along with it. Right. So when you
That's
look,
an expensive sandwich when you want it. When you
That's
can
right.
really just go get a $10 sandwich.
and you love stuff. You don't have to own something.
Let's
with
find something that makes money so you can have all the sandwiches that you
something that
want.
fits.
Yeah.
Top mistakes, I believe, are they lack discipline. So the average investor lacks discipline. They really don't know what they want. And
Would you say that's just because they want their money to make them money, so they're trying to go to franchises looking for an easy buck,
yeah,
thinking that the systems are there?
the reality is that most people come to me from a negative place. You can only come to me from two places. You're either happy, I love my job, I love my career. Well, why are you here? I just want to make a side investment and
Yeah.
generate some additional cash flow, put a spouse to work, buy something for my kids.
Yeah.
I just want to get something going on the side. I've been through 5 acquisitions. I'm 45. I'm not going through another one. I'll seamlessly transition into my new business, but I am happy. Great. Then there's the other person. Absolutely miserable, grossly underpaid, 2-hour commute round trip. Hate this company. Been through a bunch of mergers, acquisitions. I hate the culture, right? I just don't want to be here anymore. I have to get out. Most people, unfortunately, come to me from a negative place. And with that is emotions, not discipline. It's just highly emotional, which means you're being irrational and you're really not saying, I'm in a cool head. This is what I want. And that's what we provide to them.
Yeah.
Let's look at a low investment. Let's look at a high margin. Let's look at very few employees. Let's look at cash paid on demand of service, no ARs. Let's look at limited to no inventory. Let's look at non-brick and mortar, right? Let's look at something recession resilient. Let's look at something AI resilient. And all of a sudden they're like, man, this is great. Like one phone call, I wasn't even thinking this way. I know, because you're obsessing on this reel in your head about how much you hate your boss.
Yeah.
Like this is just unproductive shit.
You hate your situation so bad that you want to get out of it, but
And that's all they think about.
you have no strategy.
That's
you're
right.
not even thinking. You're
No one
just-
has strategy.
Anything is better than what I'm dealing with, which is really not the case. I think people are, too focused on the negatives, in their situation, which actually just perpetuates the problem. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't think people have it as bad as they like to believe that they have it, but I do think it's good to get to the point where you finally said, you know what, I'm fed up, I can't take it anymore, which, ejects you out of your seat to at least start opening up, doors and walking through them that you wouldn't have normally done. So,
Yeah.
either side of the coin there. One, I think more people should be appreciative, but two, you get what you tolerate. And if you're no longer willing to tolerate the boss, the hours, the culture, the pay, whatever it is, then at that point, your risk tolerance just increased.
That's right.
Because anything, I'm willing to now make greater risk in order for the opportunity to remove myself from the situation.
It's crazy how acclimated a person will be in a bad situation.
Yeah.
COVID exposed all of it. The guys that traveled for work, and now they're not traveling, and they realize, holy crap, I hate my life. Like just like that. And I dealt with all these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many people we're dealing with from corporate America that come to
Yeah.
us, right? You deal with business people.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, I need your help. Help me optimize efficiencies in my business. Help me scale. Help me.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with people that are like, look, I'm an employee mindset. I want to shift to self-employment. My biggest issue, you asked an interesting question, because it's like, what are the issues what are the problems or the mistakes that they make? So I've outlined some of the mistakes they make. You fall in love with the product, not the process. You have no discipline. You lack it, which we could provide. You're going to do it on your own. Don't do it. I mean, even Tiger Woods doesn't go it alone. He has a caddy. Michael Jordan had a coach. Every best of everything has a backup. They always have an entourage of advisors advising them. So it makes them better. They're leveraging collective intelligence. Like, would you not want to do that?
If you fall in love with your own perspective to the point that you don't get outside perspective, you could be in the weeds and, not even fully understand how you got there.
Yeah. I agree with that. My bigger issue in my business, which you don't have to deal with, I think, in your business, is I have to deal with the fear, which kills the deal, right? So
uncertainty.
It is incredible to me how someone will work with us for 120 days. They're drinking Kool-Aid. Yeah. They're following the process. Yeah. They're meeting with the brand. They're closing the loop on due diligence. They have answers to everything. But the problem is that the brain is wired for survival, not success. So all they do is doom scroll on this reel. There's a reel playing in their head of all the worst outcomes that they could possibly experience. Public humiliation. My kids and spouse are watching me go out on my own. What if I fail? Right? All of this starts to creep in.
I can't afford to lose this money.
It is incredible. And no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Fear is one of the most influential forces in our lives, and no one talks about it. If you just randomly listen to podcasts, it will all be about success, winning, overcoming objection, right? Leadership roles, success. It's all about just kill it, get over it, right? Yeah. Just fight like hell, fuck that, rise, face fear in the face. No one gives anyone anything manageable to overcome fear. Fear is biological. It's not emotional. Right? It's all about the brain, whether it's the hippocampus or the amygdala, right? You're talking about shit that most people can't even comprehend, which is why, what do? Pump the brakes, I'm out.
Yeah.
And they blame. Most people will masquerade their fear because it manifests itself. They'll blame their spouse. Yeah, man, I just can't get them comfortable. So you're out? Yeah, I just can't get them comfortable. Bullshit. You're afraid, right? Yeah. Or they'll blame tariffs, which is the new blame.
Yeah.
Tariffs are all the... thank goodness for new events because it gives people an exit strategy to not move forward.
No, the funny thing about that is there's always going to be new events.
That's right. And so we're an excuse to fail.
If you're looking, you'll find it.
You got it.
I mean,
it's economy.
It's business. You're going to inherit some risk.
Yes.
And people's risk tolerance. Well, they say people are more motivated by fear than they are of gain. So, for instance, like, hey, if you do a great job, you can get a pay raise or whatever. But if you go, hey, if you don't do a great job at this, I have to let you go.
That's right. The fear of loss is 2 times more powerful than the gain.
Now, all of a sudden, it's a whole different fire because they're fighting to keep something, not gain something.
You want to hear a crazy story about that? I love that.
Yeah.
So we were in the restoration business, water, fire, mold, and biohazard, multi-million-dollar business in Annapolis, Maryland. I loved it. Yeah. Highest margin ever.
Yeah.
Worst lifestyle, highest margin ever.
Yeah, you're getting a fucking call at 2 a.m. My house is flooded. Come rip out my carpet.
You got it.
Yeah.
Every year, $50,000 being shelled out for running over a bike, breaking a gas line. Because remember, we're cutting the perimeter out of your entire house.
Yeah.
When the water picks up your insulation. We're destroying, damaging, breaking, moving furniture, cracking the legs, breaking your treadmill. Like, we're just breaking stuff. $50,000 a year, over and over and over again. So we said, okay, let's do this. To your point, let's do this. How about we take $50,000 and we put it in an account January 1. Tell all the employees it's your money. Are you 3% of payroll? You get 3% of $50,000. You're 10% of payroll. You get whatever percentage you are of payroll.
Whatever is left.
$50,000. Yeah, you're 20% of payroll. Yeah. You take it 20% of $50,000.
Damage.
Would you believe? Everything that damaged comes out of that 50. So if you want to run over bicycles in the driveway, when we tell you not to pull in the driveway and to put your cone in the back of the vehicle, right? All of the things we put in place to avoid that. Anytime you break something, damage something's coming out of the $50,000. Miraculously, the $50,000 gets distributed to all the employees. We don't break things anymore. Just like that. We break $50,000 in damage every year because there's nothing. It's my money. It's our money. It never affected them.
Yeah.
But the fear of losing the $50,000 was greater than saying, if you guys do good this year, you might get a bonus. People will only exert a limited amount of energy to get what they want, but they will fight like hell to keep what they have.
Yes.
Right? They'll fight like hell to keep what they have.
Preservation masters, right? How can I preserve? That's where people's energy is. How do I preserve what I have?
That's right.
Rather than how do I make progress? With what I have.
That's right.
Like, what is it that I could do? I mean, you like When I was driving home yesterday, I was just like sitting there thinking, I was like, man, the standard in society has just, I mean, if you just look around, go to the grocery store, like the standard is so low that if you literally just got up and walked a mile every day for a year, you would be in the top 1%.
That's right. I know the 1% club seems so exclusive, and it's like we're in it,
dude.
I didn't feel like it was that much of a grind to get there.
It feels like, I still wonder what more should I be doing? What more can I be doing? High performers never really focus on what they've done. They focused on what else they could do. Right. Like where else can I make an inch of progress? What else can I do? Could I wake up earlier? Could I join a mastermind? Could I hire a consultant? Could I start another business? Could I, that's literally because in the top 1%, whatever they've done, it isn't usually good enough yet.
That's right.
And they never really find a good enough. That's the, the negative side of being in the top 1%. You're never really that satisfied.
That's right.
Which is just an unfortunate truth. Even Tom Brady said, what's your favorite ring? The next one.
That's right.
Right. He's not talking about the other 5 or 6 or whatever that he's won. He's already focused on what the next accomplishment is, because it's really if you think about it, and we've heard about it, all this stuff in the success space, it's all getting watered down, where they say that it's really just a process. That's really where the gold is just immersing yourself into a process that forces you to become somebody that even has a probability or a possibility of reaching that type of an outcome. And when you reach that type of an outcome, it's almost more like a sense of relief, like, oh, it actually did work. It and then you're like, okay, pressure's on again. What else can I do? So it's not like, I wouldn't even say it's a massive sense of accomplishment to make, a certain amount of money or to receive a certain accolade or an accomplishment. Right. It's more of a sense of relief.
Right.
Than it is anything. Sure. And then you get back on the grind because, like, bro, I did a 3 years straight of 2-a-days every day. I'm pursuing the world record for the half marathons, as we talked about. Why would I do something like that? Because every time I look back on my past, I'm like, oh man, I used to complain a lot about practice when I was in sports. Right. But that's really what I miss the most is being at practice with the dudes, right. The camaraderie, I had to, obviously put in work, but it was like the days that are the toughest practices, like those are the ones that you don't forget about. You easily forget about the easy, kind of walk through shit. And it's like, okay, so if my brain is remembering the good times as all of these difficult days that I had in the process of trying to become good. Right. So therefore the gold is in the process. I want to create a life where I'm just kind of in a process of something. Cool. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, dude, I'm going to set a goal that's not like a 30-day goal. Like I want to set a goal that will take years, that will force me to get super granular and focus on the day. That's all you have to do. Like if you got a 30-day goal, you're already thinking about the end because the end is near when you even start, right? Like I think that's one of the biggest issues in anybody's success is they're wanting an outcome or a result, and they get frustrated that they don't have the result that they want, which then decreases their productivity because, somebody that's upset about this business that's not producing what they want, how can that person give 100% to that business at that point? Right. You're resenting the thing that you're showing up to every single day, and a resentful person isn't going to create the same results as somebody that's positive, energetic, that trusts the process, that's showing up, not half staff, full bore, you know what I mean? True. So, what's some of the quickest turnaround times that somebody could expect, like, to pay back loans? And everybody, I would guess, is a little bit different. I mean, I'm sure you guys, some people are like, fuck dude, the first year I just want to pay it all off, or within 2 years. And then there's probably some people are like, dude, I just want my cash flow, I'm good with a 10-year SBA or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
It just
every
depends on the
brand-
strategy.
Yeah, it depends on the brand.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's doing this to, not get a good return at least 3.5 years.
Yeah.
As
But they're making money during that.
Oh, for
and
sure.
then when the loan's paid off, then it's just
Yeah.
even more money, right?
But I mean, I think, so I want to make sure I answer that question properly. To cash flowing is very different than paying off
Paying
the
off the
business.
loan.
Yeah, you were talking about specifically paying
Yeah,
things off.
yeah.
And like,
I guess the whole point is, it's individual depending
brands.
on their goals,
That's
right?
right.
If they wanted to have it cash flow quicker, they could focus on the debt, pay off the debt, and I guess a larger number quicker, right? So if you want a larger number, that means by default that you're going to have to take a back seat and focus on delayed gratification rather than, getting immediate cash flow.
Right. And we advise clients right now in this environment, like, don't take on a lot of debt because you're not going to be profitable. As you know, it's very expensive to borrow.
Most of these people coming are coming with their own hard-earned money, and then
Most of them,
some.
not 100%. There's a tax strategy that no one ever heard of called a ROBS. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I would say 97% of people I meet have never heard of an ROBS. The ROB, believe it or not, an ROBS, of the tax strategy, was created in the 1970s when ERISA law was created, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you and I the right to take an old 401k. It can't be with your current employer because that means you're currently employed.
Oh, you're talking about how you can just roll it and pull it?
Take that rollover, buy a business with it. Zero state, zero federal, zero early withdrawal penalty.
Yeah.
It is a dollar for dollar distribution. No, it's a non-taxable event.
So I've heard
and you're
some
still
people do that.
maintaining tax deferred status.
But I've heard some people, when they no longer work for their employer, because if they're working for their employer and it's still there's contributions still happening, you can't do it.
That's right. If you're still employed, you can't do it.
You can't do it, right?
You can do it with an IRA that's outside of the employer.
Yeah. So you've got, there's the self-directed 401ks. I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with that. So, roll over a 401k to self-directed. Self-directed basically means you could borrow yourself the money. You're giving yourself a loan out of the self-directed 401k for buying a business or investing into something, writing your own, terms or whatever. I mean, there's some legalities where it can't be 0%. It has to be basically whatever the rates are.
That's right.
So it has to be 5% or 6% or whatever. But you could write it for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm sure that there's some legalities too. It's not dollar for dollar, I don't think, when you do the solo though. Like if you rolled over like $300,000, I think you could touch 200 or something like that. And it could still grow like there's 300 in there and you've got the money tax free because it's a loan. Then you go invest it and the investment helps pay the payments back.
That's right. Your strategy is very different from the ROBS because the ROBS is not a loan. There's no payback period. It's just a dollar for dollar investment with a zero taxable event, no prime, no interest rate, and you're buying a business. It doesn't have to be a franchise. Obviously, we use it in franchising.
It could be any investment.
Buy a business. And one of the reasons why the ROBS is uniquely legally different from what you said is that you can work in the business and receive a salary from the fact that your IRA bought it. In a self-directed environment, it would be illegal to buy a business if you're working in it. You're only allowed to buy passive investments with a rollover, right?
I was going to say the majority of people that I know that do that are usually doing real estate.
And that's why because it's passive. Exactly. So there's no legal issue.
I'll take
I'm not working in it
and put a deposit down and then
you're right.
Get a loan and have renters or Airbnb or whatever, that type of situation.
Yeah.
I haven't heard too many people with the solo 401k actually take it and go buy
a yogurt place. Exactly. They're not going to do that.
So
no one would advise them to do that. Right, that's where the ROBS kicks in. But let's just say you bought a franchise for $200,000 and sold it for $400,000. The $400,000 goes back into the IRA rollover, tax deferred. So you're tax deferring the gain of the business that you just bought and sold.
I mean, eventually you'd have to take your hit on it unless you
take a distribution from the IRA.
Yeah, unless you wait to a certain age or some shit like 59 and
requirement on distribution
or like all the bullshit.
Yeah,
you got to look into all the red tape that they have, but I mean, there's definitely ways to do it. So do you guys have you've got people that come in here paying cash, you've got some people doing, rollovers
cash
or ROBS, And then there's
Cash rollovers, SBA.
then
All of them.
So some people will do all three.
Most common.
Really?
A little bit of cash. Don't deplete my powder. Keep my powder dry. A little bit of my 401k. It was illiquid money until I met you.
Yeah.
It was illiquid.
I couldn't
Everybody
cancel-
told me you can't touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch told me I was going to die if I took it out.
Yeah.
Before I was 59 and a half.
Yeah, that's
all
what they
bullshit.
want you to think.
It's all bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
You could take a dollar for dollar out.
They want you to keep the money in their system.
That's right.
You
You're
know,
exactly
that's-
right.
That's how they win.
They have you believe in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and buy it from me only. Meanwhile, not true.
I think that's dying, slowly.
Yeah.
I think, the information age is making it more known that
Totally.
that's just a fucking racket. But you could, even if you know it's a racket, there's still money to be made in a racket.
Sure.
As long as you're playing
Play
a
the
long game.
Play the game.
You know what I mean? Like, are you a trader or are you an investor? Right? Like, don't go into a market like that becoming a day trader if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Park it, forget about it.
Right.
Let them, let inflation grow it.
Right.
Just because you put $100 in and it's worth 1,000, now your 1,000's worth 100. So
Look at the cost of a house.
yeah, now
Right.
you preserved your money more so than you did make money
So true.
on a situation like that. So SBA loans, are they tough right now, or is that
They're not-
pretty
no, the
on
new
franchising with that? Like having data probably helps.
ton of money available for business loans. SBA, solid,
Really?
especially under this administration. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Their money is flowing freely and to the right people.
Yeah.
Right.
So you got to have good credit. Shit
6
like that.
million higher. Have some exactly.
Have active income.
You don't need active income, which is interesting. So you don't. I mean, is it helpful?
Sure.
And underwriting, of course, it is. Right. It's like, look, you could already pay the loan based on your current cash flow, but no, it's not a requirement to be underwritten for the loan because a lot of them want you to go all in. They want you to put skin in the game. So the math is pretty simple. This is what I tell every client, just for simple math. If let's just say the size of the deal is $400,000, the client always wants to know, what do I have to inject? Like, how much cash do I have to put up?
Yeah.
The answer is always 30%. That's what I tell everyone. Just do 30%, you're safe. So a $400,000 business, you're required to put up to 120. The bank will finance the balance, right? And that's just how we do it. And it keeps it really simple.
I think that's the issue with franchising is most people see that top line number and then they get spooked because they're like, well, dude, I don't got $250,000 or I don't got $300,000. Even that was with my buddy Devin. I'm like, bruh, like the average person, as you said, alluded to, is ignorant. They just see a massive number and be like, dude, that's way too big. I can't afford that.
Right.
But if you're talking about something that's $150,000 or $200,000, at 30%, it's like, dude, fucking pull up your big boy pants and save 30, 40, 50 grand, over the course. I mean, dude, you could save $30,000 or $40,000, probably just losing a little sleep and driving Uber for a year, making, an extra $3,000 a month doing it on the nights and weeks. It's not sexy.
Right.
I'm not sitting here saying that, hey, it's going to be a fun process to get ahead.
I don't want to do it.
Getting ahead is
but
never
I'll do
a
it.
fun process.
That's right.
Like if you want something bad enough, the ego gets off of the table and you say, okay, what does it look like? What do I have to do to get ahead? And unfortunately, most people complain about working 40 hours a week and not being able to get ahead. That's the status quo. That's called survival.
Right.
That's what you're required to do
Right.
in society. So it's not like you're doing anything special. You're not going above and beyond. You're not working extra. And you expect to have extra.
That's right. 9 to 5 is to survive. It's what you do after those hours that matters.
That's really what. So if you want to get ahead, I mean, dude, even making $250 extra a week doing driving or whatever. I mean, bro, that's $1,000 a month.
Most people, quite frankly, can see, and I agree with everything you just said, but most people just not buying stupid shit, they'd have plenty of money.
Yeah.
Everyone is always crying poverty with a Starbucks in their hand, a new BMW, and the newest iPhone and the newest iPad. It's like, stop.
Yeah.
People just, you hear Mr. Wonderful all the time, Kevin O'Leary, just talking about this with our youth. Stop buying stupid shit.
Yeah.
Like, stop spending all of your money on this stuff. And all this stuff just depreciates. It all goes to zero. Everything I just said goes to zero. The phone goes to zero. The car goes to zero. Yet none of them are appreciating assets.
Yeah.
None of them are going to change your life. And a lot of people do that. So you're right. I don't have the money. Well, you can get the money. You have to exert the energy to get it. You'd rather drive an Uber, or you're going to stop buying stupid
There's
stuff.
an exchange.
Yeah, you can't just keep eating out every day and spending $10 a day on coffee.
Your current lifestyle is giving you the information that
Yes.
if you keep doing that, it doesn't work.
Yes.
So therefore, something has to change. Either you have to work more or you have to spend less.
Yeah.
Most people don't necessarily, I can't say most people, that's a, pretty broad brush that I'm trying to paint that with. A lot of people have more of a spending issue than they do have an income issue.
Right.
You hear the story of the fucking janitor that made $60,000 a year and retired with millions of dollars in his bank account because he just put X amount in a 401k and let the 40 years, do its thing. The biggest issue between, most people and a greater result is the delayed gratification that they would have to go through, or the sacrifice that they would have to make, the effort that they would have to exert to close the gap.
That's right.
Right. And so if there's a gap, by default, you have to exert energy from go to point A to point B. And most people just
don't want to do it.
I mean, even literally disciplining your impulses in terms of your financial spending is a form of exerting energy, because you're going up against the version of yourself that has an impulse that wants to do it. And you have to say, whoa, I
not doing that anymore.
I caught you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
No, you're going down a path that we used to go down. And so like there's the internal battles, there's the mental discipline, physical discipline. I mean, there's so much has to come together in order for progress to happen, but it's just really not as hard as people make it out to be. They're just unwilling to honor the process and go through it. I've had people hit me up in the DM like, dude, like I'm like $15,000 away from being able to start this business, dude. Will you loan me $15,000? Like, oh, so, shit like that. And I'm like, I flat out say, if you're $15,000 away from this thing that's going to be so fucking great, you shouldn't be in my DMs.
Right.
$15,000, bro, you're 6 months away from having $15,000 saved up. And if you're not willing to actually suffer a little bit, delay gratification, or work more, then that right there tells me that this wouldn't work anyways. Because if $15,000 is holding you back from some amazing business or amazing result, what happens when you get into business and you get dealt with real problems? $15,000 away from a level of success that they're portraying that they would have on a social media DM, like, you should be willing to go through anything to get $15,000. And that doesn't mean going and asking other people to solve your problem for you. As a business, you're not going to have that option. So what's going to happen when you come across a hurdle that's, again, difficult in business, and I'm partners with you because I just handed you $15,000, dude, you have to fight for what it is that you want, because you're going to have to continue.
That's right.
This is the easy part. This is the coming up with the money, the easiest part, dude.
So true.
You should hate your situation so fucking bad that getting access to money is the least of your worries.
That's right.
And so that you could focus on, hey, let's deal with real problems, money making problems, not,
that's right,
lack of money problems. So how do people connect with you if they want to link up with you, if they have questions about franchising, if they want to inquire about a franchise, if they want, one of your bomb ass assessments?
I appreciate that. One of the things I didn't say is the services are free, and no one believes free, so I do say it twice. The services are 100% free to the buyer. We're compensated by the seller, just like a realtor or a headhunter.
What, like the sellers in the franchises?
Correct. So when you make your grants today,
35 or 50 grand franchise fee, they give you make
would
your
be
money
compensated by the seller, the franchisor.
Okay.
Right. So we work for the buyer for free. If it's your listeners, we work for your listeners for free, and we're paid by the franchisor. There's no commitment, no nonsense, no games. They don't sign anything. And that's why I tell everyone, you're not buying anything. You're going to go through a 2-3 month due diligence cycle. And if they wanted to learn more, just set up a quick call. They could visit our website.
So you pretty much just get paid when you've done the work to help them find something that's a good fit, and they've executed on it.
We're paid by the seller.
Kind of like an injury attorney. You get paid after the fact, huh?
We get paid. That's right. And our cycle is at least 90 to 120 days.
Wow.
So we move slowly. It's methodically. It's with, again, discipline.
Yeah.
We're making sure they have everything they need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And we don't let anyone look at one brand.
What's the name of the company?
Phenosity.
Fernocity.
So it's Fernocity.com, FRANOCITY.com. They could visit the site. They could find me. They could find a quick short form, schedule a call. My calendar's on there. You could schedule a consult, a 15-minute call.
What an incredible show. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Again, show me some love. Give me some reviews. Other than that, kick ass. We'll see y'all next week.